Good morning. My name is Mike Small, and I'm Executive Director of the Alumni Relations Office at NJIT, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our latest Highlander Chat. I'm very proud to welcome our next guest today, Manish Advani, class of 2000. Manish has been an entrepreneur. He has served in marketing roles in various corporations and now is a senior executive. But first and most importantly, he is a storyteller. You may have seen him from any one of his 7 TEDx appearances as a guest speaker about storytelling. I'm very pleased to welcome Manish Advani. Manish, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on this show. It's been so many years. I've lost touch with NJIT, but my heart still lies with NJIT because I will never forget some of the best moments I had at NJIT.
So I'm thrilled to hear you say that because that was one of the original ways that you and I connected. By way of full disclosure for our audience today, I reach out to many alumni on LinkedIn. I'm privileged occasionally to have alumni reach out to me on LinkedIn. And you were one of the alums who did that. What really struck me the first time we interacted was that you shared a story about coming to NJIT. And usually in LinkedIn, anyway, you get these brief updates, these little bits and bytes of information. But the way that you described the emotion, the experience of coming, and then the more I read of your posts, the more I realized this is somebody who really has lived this fascinating life and also has turned that into something inspirational to others. So I wonder if I can take the starting point here to ask you to share the story about how you came to NJIT from living in India, what your experience was like.
Wow, that's something very interesting. When I was, being raised as a child, I always used to, often used to listen to English numbers. One of the songs I used to listen to was "Born in the USA," and from childhood, I had a dream that one day I want to study in the Western world, and US was one of the countries which was on my charts. It was in year 1998. My college got into tie up with New Jersey Institute of Technology. Through that bridge program, I got selected as a student, and I still remember it was 17th December 1998 when I got my visa, and I left in few days' time. And it was an amazing experience ending up at the beautiful campus of New Jersey Institute of Tech. I believe it was just before the Christmas break. I visited the campus, and I met the dean at the university. I believe it was Mr. Chakravarti. It's been so many years. It's been over 20 years. I'm trying to recollect the names. But it was a lovely experience being at NJ. I mean, getting admission at NJIT.
So one of the things that also struck me there, and the more I read about what you do professionally, you've had a lot of marketing roles, but really the throughput as I see it, and that you described in your TEDx talks, is that storytelling and how important it is to convey thoughts and ideas and inspiration to people in a way that is logical to them and that touches them in some way. Having said that, there's plenty of executives out there to whom this is not something they think about or may not even consider when they're speaking with people. Um, why is storytelling so important in your view? And what sparked you to follow this in your own personal life and professional career?
Thank you so much, Michael, for asking me this question because this is a very interesting question. Storytelling has always been something which is close to my heart. And, when I had applied to NJIT after I got admission in New Jersey Institute of Technology, I ran out of funds. And, we have to pay before every semester when you are enrolled for a particular program. And I believe I still remember I had 6 months and I had to pay $6,000. And those days I didn't have money. And what I did, I mean, might not sound great to many. I started going to New York City because I was told that, that's the place where you can find odd jobs, I mean, cash jobs, which wasn't legal in those days. But, when the gun was on my neck, I thought, I will try my luck. But unfortunately, nobody hired me for an odd job. So in that sense, I would say I was lucky because I didn't break the rule. If I would have broken the rule and if I would have been caught, I would have been behind bars. But going to New York City was a different experience. Every day I was knocking doors, with a hope that I would get some funds. But it was like about 8-10 days of struggle. I didn't give up hope because my motto of my college in India was I will and I can, and I always kept that something which was that's something which has been always close to my heart. I will and I can. Keeping that in mind, I never gave up hope, and I think it was about after 13 or 14 days of struggle, I finally bumped into a gentleman who was about 6 feet 2 inches tall. I bumped into this gentleman. I narrated him my story. Um, Somehow he was a very kind gentleman. He heard my story and kind of decided to help me out. And all he said was like, you come back and see me after 3 days. I'll see what best I can do. 3 days later, when I go and meet him, he hands over an envelope to me. And I didn't know what's inside the envelope. When I opened the envelope, it had a check of 6,000 US dollars. And trust me, 6,000 US dollars in 1990s was a huge amount. It was like climbing Mount Everest. And when I got that money, years later, somebody reminded me or somebody talked about the concept of gratitude, and I felt grateful to that person. I wish I could have, expressed my gratitude earlier. So I thought, the best way I can express my gratitude is by writing a story, by sharing my experience with the rest of the world. That it's so important to express gratitude. And one of the things which I highlighted in that story was the importance of giving, because the money which I got, it came from the same trust. This gentleman got me the funds from the same trust where my mother used to donate in India. It was a sheer coincidence. But this experience woke me up. And coming back to your question on storytelling, I feel stories are the best way we can inspire others. As kids, we grew up listening to stories. As kids, stories are something I believe in the Western world, people read Dr. Seuss books. I think every child grows up reading Dr. Seuss books. Dr. Seuss books are nothing but stories. And I believe if the stories which we read are the stories which create our personality, and especially in today's times where we are going through different kinds of struggle, stories can play a major role, especially if we read positive stories. Those will make us positive, and positivity is something which is need of the hour to bounce back in life, because I believe every individual whom I'm talking to is currently going through challenging times, and the best way to come out of that situation is by reading some good stories which can inspire us, which can help us bounce back, which can help us evolve in our lives.
Manisha, I have to tell you, it was that moment when you mentioned that this $6,000 came from the same fund that your mother supported. My mind was blown when you shared that story, because it's this perfect encapsulation of how there's a full circle to life, right? And when you give, you get, and when you get, you give, or you should. So, with that in mind, uh, this is something that you've been doing. Certainly professionally, you've done very well, but personally, you've done so much as well. And there's a an epithet that they have for you over in India. You're the coconut
For
man of
some
India.
reason, I'm not able to hear you.
That's fine. Let me.
Hello?
Yep. Hold on one second. Let me try and mute and unmute myself. And Manish, I'll cut this part out. Okay. Can you hear me now, Manish? It happens. We'll cut this out. I never mind a coffee break. It's good coffee too. I'd normally be wearing a shirt and tie. I wasn't sure. I'll email Ralph right now. Hi, we're
Yeah, I'm
back.
sorry I got disconnected. There was another call which came.
Not a problem. Don't worry at
Do we
all.
have?
Is this
Will
good?
we have to redo this again?
No, no, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it and then I'll just splice it
And
together. It happens. Don't worry
sounds
about it.
great.
I actually took a coffee break. It was fine. All right. So what I was going to say, let me see if I can do a pickup on it. So there's an epithet that they have for you in India, the coconut man. And when I first read this, it actually wasn't from you to start. It was from somebody who had posted about you, and I thought, what the heck is that? So I the more I learned about what you've done there, the more interesting I find it. And I'd love to ask you, why are you the coconut man? And how does that bring together some of the threads of what you've done personally and your NJIT degree?
Wow, that is something really interesting. So a few years ago, there was a big fire in the garbage dump in the city which I live, and that kind of had become world news. And as an individual citizen of the country, I mean, we had three options: either to keep quiet, second was to protest against it, and third was to be the part of the solution. And I decided to be part of the solution. I started composting my waste because it was waste because of which the problem was created, and I decided to be part of the solution. And while I was in the journey of composting, one day my wife handed over two coconut shells, and I started playing with those shells. I started growing plants in them. I started doing artwork on those shells. I started then, ended up making a prototype of the world's first house, which won award for India in the House of which won award in the House of Commons in the British Parliament. And it got traction in India because a lot of media houses started covering some of the work which I have done. And one of the media houses gave me the name, the Coconut Man of India. And since then, I've been known as the Coconut Man of India. But that's how it really started. It was all about, I felt this one coconut, one can make so much difference in the society we live in.
I
And
have to say,
if
talk about a
everybody,
story. Coconut Man is such a unique thing, and it really has made the circulation there. So I know I think it was the Green Apple Award, a variety of different awards. So just to make sure I've got it right, so you started out with dealing with all this coconut leftovers that had caused so many issues, but you're also actually helping to build buildings with this now. Is that right?
yeah, so we built a prototype of the house, a small house using these shells. So the municipal corporation was, kind enough to, join in the initiative which I was handling. They were very supportive. The government was supportive. Many others came forward. The students were supportive, the youth of the country. And I was, fascinated to see the amount of support they offered. And, one by one, there is a saying like, when it's actually in Hindi, which might not make sense. I'm trying to see how we can translate. It's a saying which says that, when you start taking the step in the right direction, or if you're doing the right thing, one after another, people will join you, and soon you will realize something beautiful has emerged out of it.
That's extremely poetic, and it's a beautiful sentiment. Um, my last question for us, given your really diverse path to where you are, and this is such a fascinating story about what you've done and how you got over to NJIT and how you came back over to India. What would you say to other students right now? We know we're in this extremely challenging time. COVID has impacted the entire world right now, and I think it tends to make you feel closed in. So if you've got somebody who's stepping foot off campus for the first time this year and they're wondering, what do I do? Where do I go? What would you tell them to keep inspired?
I would just tell them two words: keep exploring different things. Don't be attached to one thing, because at times when we get attached to one thing, we end up in crisis. So rather than being attached to one thing, at times we make up our mind, I want it that way. This is what I'm looking forward to. And that actually leads to crisis, I feel. But if we are detached, if we are, in the mood of continuously exploring different things, continuously learning different things, absorbing as much as possible from the environment we live in. In fact, one of the statements which I've been always, which has always inspired me, is a statement made by the professor to the founder of the biggest group in India, which is known as the Tata Group. And the statement was, the academic learnings are not the final word in life. You open your minds and you will see learning everywhere. All I would say to the students, this is an amazing opportunity. See this as an amazing opportunity where, there is so much to learn. because I mean, I don't think this period will come again, because I mean, at every step there is a learning, and if they can learn as much as they can, I think they will only evolve and only evolve, and they will. And another thing which I would like to suggest is, it's always important to discover the new within you continuously. There is something which is unique about every individual, and if that individual finds that unique thing about himself or herself, I think then there's no question of getting tensed in current times.
That's really excellent. It's excellent advice, and thank you very much for offering it, Manish. I want to thank you again for joining us. I also want to extend the best wishes of the Alumni Association and the university to you and your family to stay safe and stay well, and to have a great spring and early summer.
Thank you so much for take. I mean, it was a honor and privilege to be on this show, and I'm so happy to be again connected with NJIT. Thank you.
That's great. And the next time we're over in India, by the way, a quick shout out. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of alumni in India. We're really anxious to get over there at some point, like you and I were talking about before we got started. I can't wait to get us over there and to start connecting with our alums and maybe recruiting some future students just like yourself.
Certainly, look forward to interacting with you. Eagerly look forward to interacting with you.
Excellent.
But it was
Manish,
so nice talking to you.
it was my pleasure entirely. It was great to connect, and be well.
Thank you.
So this has been the latest edition of the Highlander Chat. I was very proud to welcome Manish Advani, class of 2000. Again, Manish is a storyteller par excellence. He is a 7-time TEDx speaker. He has had a professional career in marketing at various companies. Most importantly, he is an extremely proud Highlander. So if you'd like to leave questions for Manish, please make sure to leave a question in any of the comments where you happen to be viewing this. That's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. You can follow us on our podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Or you can email us at alumni@njit.edu, and we'll be happy to connect you with Manish after that. Again, this is Mike Smallman, Executive Director of Alumni Relations at NJIT. And my last word, be well, stay safe and healthy, and go Highlanders.